Lyra made a website, awesome Pokemon content creator. How does the Safari Zone even work? The Safari Zone's been missing for several generations at this point, and I think a lot of people have misconceptions on the rock versus the bait and how the Safari Zone works. So I figure, as somebody that is going back to Gen 3 at this point in time, let's look into it and see how it actually functioned.
So many of the staple features, areas, and tropes of the Pokemon series were introduced in the very first games. Red and Blue for the Game Boy. Over the years, some were kept as is, most were improved, and a few were toyed with until being eventually dropped for good.
I need to actually get the Berry Master. I need to roll for Berry Master. He's almost necessary nowadays if you're doing Pokeblocks because of how hard it is to find people to Berry Mash with.
This is the case for the Safari Zone, which appeared in some form in almost every core game until its eventual removal in Pokemon Black and White.
Didn't we have Friend Safari, though, in Gen 6? So it was, like, adjacent. I wonder if that was... I wonder why they dropped it. I don't think I've ever heard, like, a concrete response on why. I think it's stigma in regards to Safari and context, I think? Allegedly?
The concept of this unique area is simple. Focus on the catching aspect of the Pokemon games.
Right.
No combat, no trainers, no questioning which ball fits the situation best, just random encounters and Pokemon capture. In essence, the Safari Zone is a Pokemon game inside a Pokemon game.
We are in Pokeception. It's perfect. I honestly really like the Safari Zone. I mean, sure, some of the... We all have memories of the Chansey getting away, the 1% catches getting away, right? Or even in my case, you know, where I got a Shiny Gloom and Emerald, which traded away a long time ago. Emerald stream soon at some point. You know, it's one of those that the Safari Zone is really cool for a lot of things. And even in Gen 3, where you could put Pokeblocks in to apparently get certain natures as well. That's pretty cool. And, you know, we have our memories of losing Pokemon, but we also have a lot of good memories. And I think a lot of people... Why are there 7 Pokeballs here? That's throwing me off. Because I'm used to 6, because 6 and a... Weird thing to focus on, I know. Safari Zone, I feel, has a lot of potential, and still does have a lot of potential. It's just not really utilized anymore. I mean, the most recent technical re-release of it is the RBY GSC games, right, on 3DS Virtual Console, which technically you can't even buy anymore.
But in typical Gen 1 fashion, the specific mechanics of this area are hidden, not well thought out, and some don't even work as intended. How so? Let's dive in.
Hell yeah.
Halfway through the Red and Blue story, we get to Fuchsia City. Most of the town consists of zoo-like enclosures.
I feel like that's one of those boomer things that I can, like, say, like, someone's like, oh, I love Pokemon. The Pokemon sprites are so colorful. Me, back in my day, you changed city and routes, the whole screen changed color. And people are like, what? Gosh, Kip, what are you talking about? And it's like, look, you had to be there. You had to be there.
For Safari Pokemon, such as Chansey, Kangaskhan, Kabuto.
Huh.
It's a fossil Pokemon, not a Safari Pokemon.
God, Gen 1 sprites are wild.
Most of the town consists of zoo-like enclosures for the most random Pokemon, all surrounding the entrance to the Safari Zone. Upon paying the entry fee of 500 Pokédollars, we are given 30 Safari Balls to try and catch the plethora of Pokemon present.
Yes.
We are free to explore the 4 areas that compose the Safari Zone.
You are timed by 500 steps, so I'm sure Lyra's going to go over it. You're timed by 500 steps. That's how you can actually cheese the Safari Zone infinitely, is if you stay in a patch of grass that you want to be in, and you just hit the directional button just so you start rotating your character, because rotating your character does not count as a step. It counts as you staying in place. Fun fact, if you didn't know about older Pokemon games because of the tile sets, yes, if you hit the directional pad in a way that it's you don't hit it hard enough, kind of like a tilt in a fighting game versus a full move, right? You will rotate your character, and that counts as fishing for encounters.
Central area, Area 1 to the east, Area 2 to the north, and Area 3 to the west, and encounter all sorts of Pokemon, either in the tall grass or by fishing.
Yep.
Our time is not unlimited, though.
Dratini's there.
As soon as we run out of Safari Balls, or after 500 steps, whichever comes first, we are called back to the entrance, and the Safari run ends.
Actually, that has a very interesting glitch that you can glitch out of bounds. And I think, isn't that part of the Glitch City glitch? If I remember correctly. there's an interaction where you glitch out of the Safari Zone and you walk around and then you get called back here and then you come back. It's very weird. Pokemon Gen 1 was, ooh, that's spaghetti code, but God, it was fun.
So far, this sounds like the standard Pokemon fare. Explore areas, find Pokemon, catch them. But once we get to the specifics, things become a lot more complicated. Upon encountering a Pokemon, we cannot fight.
I forgot how massive Execute in Gen 1 was, just the singular egg.
We are given 3 options instead. Throw a Safari Ball, some bait, or a rock. Which is surprisingly mean. Enough for this option to have been changed in subsequent entries.
I think that was part of the reason as well. Like, not only Safari context and stigma, but this as well.
From
did not age well.
To throwing mud instead.
Yeah.
In the first generation games, the Safari Ball is the equivalent of an Ultra Ball. The Gen 1 catching mechanics are so confusing, I made an entire video trying to make sense of it all.
We'll be going over that at some point. Gen 1 catching was definitely strange.
Long story short, Safari Balls perform worse than they should and give us a fairly low chance of capture for rare Pokemon. So then, we should probably use baits or rocks to increase our chances. How do those work? Throwing bait halves the current Pokemon's catch rate, while throwing a rock doubles it, up to a theoretical maximum of 255.
Man, I've had strings where I've just kept pelting them with rocks. I've done like 3 to 4 times. They just keep going. They're just there. Sometimes they're just that stubborn.
Note that doubling the catch rate does not mean doubling the catch chance, as the catch rate is only one of the many factors included in the calculation.
God, Scyther.
Also, because Safari Balls are Ultra Balls in disguise, the catch rate basically maxes out at 150. So there is no reason to throw more bait once that number is reached.
Interesting.
Both bait and rocks also affect the target Pokemon's current state. By default, any Pokemon in the Safari Zone is in a neutral state.
I feel like those that played competitive Gen 1 see Tauros and just immediately have flashbacks. Like Tauros nowadays, right? Tauros is like, oh, it's funny meme bull Pokemon, right? Gen 1 Tauros, from everything I've seen, is a monster. Like, it is one of the metagame defining Pokemon in RBY.
Using bait will make a Pokemon eat, while throwing a rock will make it understandably angry.
Right.
Both states are active for a random number of turns, between 1 and 5 from the moment of the throw, and are exclusive. A Pokemon can only be eating or angry.
But not both.
Not both. Throwing a bait at an eating Pokemon or a rock at an angry one will add an extra 1 to 5 turns to the current state, up to 255. But we are very unlikely to get this far because of how Pokemon behave in a Safari Zone encounter. During the encountered Pokemon's turn, the game does 2 actions. First, it lowers the current state by 1 turn, and if the Pokemon goes from angry to neutral, its catch rate is reset to the default value.
So it sounds like you choose whether you're going to be anger or hunger route, and then you just build on that till it resets to a neutral state.
As stated earlier, the Game Boy games are a mess programming-wise. So, of course, there is a quirk where the current state is checked before being modified, meaning the eating or angry message will be displayed the turn it runs out. Also, if the Pokemon goes from eating to neutral, the catch rate is not reset back to its original value. Thank you, Gen 1. Second, the game determines if the Pokemon will flee or not.
Right.
And that's where things get wild.
Of course it is.
A calculation is performed where the current speed of the Pokemon is multiplied by 2 and compared to a random number between 0 and 255.
Right. So say you have, for example, a Rayquaza, right? Pokemon, it's 90 base speed, right? Let's just say you have, for kicks and giggles, right? You have a Rayquaza in the Safari Zone, base 90 speed, and say 0 IVs, can't have EVs. So just say let's say it's 100 speed for all intents and purposes, right? You have a Pokemon with 100 speed, and you would multiply that by 2, so you would have 200 out of 255. So then so you take that, combine it by 2.
If the modified speed is equal to or
okay, yeah, so it's both of these feed into that. So you'd have your theoretical 200 out of 255. It would generate a random number, and it compares that 200 with the random number.
Greater than the random number, the Pokemon runs away. Notice how it takes the current speed of the Pokemon, not the base speed of the species. This means slower Pokemon are less likely to flee, as well as low-level ones, as their speed stat will naturally be lower.
So where does Blissey come in, not Blissey, Chansey come into that? Because Chansey is thick.
For instance, a Pokemon like the slow-level 22 Paras we can encounter in Area 1 has a 14.84 chance to flee, while the fast-level 23 Scyther, found in the central area, has a 43.75% chance to flee.
Yes.
Increased to 53.13 at level 28.
Scyther is rough.
We are only talking about the neutral state, though. Going back to our calculation, an extra step is added where our modified speed is either divided by 4 if the Pokemon is eating, or multiplied by 2 again if it is angry.
Okay.
Which means a multiplication by 4 before being compared to the random number. How likely a speed multiplied by 4 is to be lower than a random number between 0 and 255? Well, looking at the chances to flee of angry Pokemon, not very. And that's where we can see the huge
that Doduo has a 73% chance, approximately, to flee.
Problem with rocks. The way the calculation works, for most Pokemon, throwing a rock pretty much assures...
look at the Venomoth. Oh my god. Venomoth and Tauros just like, nah, bro.
It will immediately flee. Sure, it may help for a handful of common Pokemon, but those are already easy to get and can be caught outside the Safari Zone anyway. With the rare Pokemon we would want to capture in the area, pretty much impossible to catch if we throw a single rock.
Yeah, just load up that tennis ball launcher. Just not even worth.
Even if the Pokemon does not instantly escape, our chances of a successful capture remain relatively low.
That is so
The bait does not fare much better either. While an eating Pokemon gives us more opportunities to throw Safari Balls, it still has a non-negligible chance to flee, while having a ridiculously low catch chance.
Honestly, yeah, you are literally better, statistically, in my opinion, to just throw the ball. Because a almost guaranteed chance to flee with throwing 18%, which they 3 times catch chance, that's not favorable to me. The bait, where you have your catch chance with a 12% chance to flee. I mean, if you wanted to, I'd say you could bait, if anything, but like, God, that's rough.
And remember, we don't know when the current state will end because of the message glitch.
Yeah.
Forcing us to use extra bait just to be safe. So, what is the best strategy to catching Pokemon in the Safari Zone? Simple. Just throw balls.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, trying to get the best capture chance is missing the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
Every turn we use a bait or a rock is a turn we're not spending getting a chance to catch the Pokemon we want. What's the point of clearing a 90% chance to flee when that same luck would have awarded us with a successful capture in the first place?
I mean, yeah.
It is sad to say, but the math makes the bait and rock useless. The Safari Zone has 4 Pokemon exclusive to it, with 2 extra we can buy with coins at the Celadon Game Corner.
Oh my god, Gen 1 Pinsir, what did they do to you, my boy? Look at those beady eyes.
But they are expensive enough, catching them directly is a solid alternative. Out of these 6, 4 have a very low catch rate of 45. Also, the best encounter chance for all of them is a ridiculous 4%. If we want to obtain Dratini without buying it with coins, we will also have to deal with a catch rate of 45.
Whoa, what is that red and blue sprite? Oh my god. Look at that Dratini. Whoa, Gen 1 is built diff. Gen 1 Golbat is also pretty funny.
Although in this case, it has a 25% encounter chance when fishing and a slower base speed. If you're wondering why I have not mentioned Chansey, it can be encountered in Cerulean Cave.
Yeah,
and
I can too.
Considering how difficult it is to capture Pokemon in the Safari Zone, there's absolutely no reason not to take advantage of the extra 21% catch chance given by Sleep in Gen 1. All these factors make the Red and Blue Safari Zone not very compelling.
No.
And that's speaking from experience. I spent an entire evening trying to obtain Tauros and Kangaskhan.
That was
4
a bad
hours
night.
To no avail.
Wow.
Pokemon Yellow.
I mean, I know we complain about Modern Cat's chance. You have to remember that Gen 1 was rough.
Changed the Safari Zone into something slightly more bearable. The overall level of Pokemon, including the rare, difficult-to-catch ones, was lowered, sometimes dramatically. Instead of a level 26 Tauros, we get a level 21 Tauros.
Which will help with the double speed calculation.
Instead of a level 23 Scyther or Pinsir, we get level 15 ones.
Yeah.
And instead of a level 23 Chansey, we get a level 7 Chansey.
Whoa. That's like a third. Holy crap.
By the time Yellow was in production, the developers were clearly aware of the fact weaker Pokemon are easier to catch, and lowering levels across the board was a good way to fix the issue without overhauling the entire system. Yellow also added a 10% chance to encounter a level 15 Dragonair when fishing in the central area.
So, Yellow would probably
be
defend
it there.
Pikachu
edition made everything much smoother and easier, right? Not really, as we still have to encounter Pokemon going from 4% to 1%, which are now at a lower level, meaning we have to spend more time training them, and for the case of Dragonair, its catch rate was lowered from 45 to 27.
You have to remember, leveling in like RBY was also kind of a pain in the ass, because you had EXP All. So the way the EXP share functions today is a hybrid between the EXP All from Gen 1 and EXP share from like subsequent generations, you know, like Gen 3 on, right? EXP All, so say you got 600 experience from a Pokemon battle, right? With the EXP All on and all 6 party members, each party member would gain 100 experience. It would take the total EXP you got and divide it out equally. I think maybe the active Pokemon or any active Pokemon got a little bit more, but the point remains is that it's not like you're generating EXP out of thin air like you do in modern Pokemon games, right? Where your main Pokemon can, you know, defeat a level 40 Golbat, right? And everybody will get, you know, the main one will get maybe like 1,000 experience, and then everyone else will get like 300, right? It's not like that. That same 1,000 experience, the main Pokemon may get like 400 and then divide it out between the rest. You're looking at like, 600 divided by 5. Why am I having math troubles right now? It's like 120 EXP per. So EXP All was kind of rough. And yes, you could use the missing no glitch, but we're strictly talking in-game mechanically.
Making it the hardest Pokemon to obtain in the Kanto Safari Zone. And that's a Yellow exclusive change. Every other game after that reverted to a catch rate of 45. Because that would clearly make the game too easy. We don't want that just yet. This is only Gen 1. The Kanto Safari Zone was overhauled in the Gen 3 remakes, following the catching mechanics changes, and to be more in line with the Hoenn Safari Zone. But Game Freak seems to have never found a way to present the Safari Zone concept that was different enough from the normal gameplay while still being compelling. And they eventually stopped trying in Gen 5.
I was like, Gen 3 is just so nostalgic for me. Like, I love the tile sets. It controls so well. I love it. There's a lot of bugs still, don't get me wrong. And this, you know, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald was still before the physical special split. So typings were still physical special. But Gen 3 had a lot of heart to it.
That's understandable. After all, while the Safari Zone distills the concept of Pokemon to its core mechanics, it does so while removing any kind of depth. Not being able to fight with our own Pokemon removes the fun of coming up with a team dedicated to wild encounters.
Yeah, you can't use False Swipe.
Only allowing Safari Balls removes player choice and different capture strategies, especially considering the numerous balls added over the years, each with its own unique quirk.
I'm looking at you, Love Ball Gen 2.
Simplifying the core gameplay into a bait or rock system makes it painfully obvious we are just playing a numbers game. Of course, most of Pokemon is a numbers game, but there is value in having just enough input from the player to pretend it's not. And yet, I have a fondness for the Safari Zone. The execution may be lacking, but the idea is fantastic. Being a lone adventurer in a giant open world with only Pokeballs and our wits gets my imagination going wild.
It does.
It is a concept that begs to be made better, to be improved upon. In essence, that's what Pokemon Legends Arceus is. A game focused on exploration and capture, allowing the player to go through forest, mountains, and seas unhindered in search of the one Pokemon they need.
Yeah.
While Gen 1 may not have aged well for some, the numerous ideas on display are clearly timeless.
Oh, 100%. No, it's great.
If you'll excuse me, I still need to obtain Tauros and Kangaskhan. Nope.
Living Dex troubles. Yep.
Nope. Not this one.
We all have those memories. Oh, man, Tauros. No. No,
Huge thanks to every single patron who makes this content possible with their support. Like Lucas Maximilian Lur, Arcat Store, The Only Venom, Chris Lunders, Jonas C., and Kel Zini. Thank you for your time. I wish you a wonderful day, and may your Safari Zone runs be fruitful.
This was great. I absolutely loved this. As somebody that's, grew up with the Safari Zone and, seeing its ultimate exclusion in Gen 5 and going to, Gen 6 where you had the friends. It really is one of those features lost to time, not unlike the Sevii Isles. And I love seeing that retro Pokemon content is still seeing views, it's still seeing traffic, because it really was just from a different era. I mean, it's still Pokemon at the end of the day, don't get me wrong. It is just from a different era entirely, which is great. I wasn't in, yes it was the Great Marsh in Crashing Wake City. I can't remember the city name, but it was the Great Marsh where you took the tram. It was in Gen 4. This was an amazing video, and if you haven't checked out Lyra Made a website, please go check them out. They put out really great content, and it's ultimately very informative and very well presented. I absolutely love it, and I think that videos that I haven't reacted to, videos I haven't covered, I think you could find a lot that you might like if Pokemon's right up your alley. But what are your thoughts? Do you miss the Safari Zone? Do you not miss the Safari Zone? What was your favorite encounter ever, shiny or not, in any Safari Zone? What shinies have you caught in the Safari Zone? What was your most frustrating escape in the Safari Zone? Let me know in the comment section. Please keep it civil, all that fun stuff. I'll see you in the next one.